Hi, welcome back. Again, I wish I could talk to you and hear how you're doing. Thank you for taking the time to listen. I really appreciate it, and I hope you're learning some helpful things from what I'm sharing. And again, the reason I'm sharing this with you is that I know that if I'd had someone explain the healing journey for me in the beginning, it would have been a lot easier. I would have had a lot less anxiety about it. I understand probably would have, had some of the same fears and some reluctance, but still hearing about it from another real person, another human being who's been through it, perhaps that would have been more helpful. I think so. So that's why I'm sharing this with you. So today we're going to talk about disclosure to others. So what does the word disclosure mean? That means when we share our story, our abuse, or what happened to us to other people. And there is an incredible, that can be incredibly empowering to share what happened to you with another person. In the beginning, make sure you feel ready, because once we tell other people, we really can't control what they do with it. We can ask them to keep confidentiality and they not share it with other people, of course, but ultimately we can't control other people. You maybe have practiced by writing out what you wanted to say, and this is a person that you trust and you have confidence that they will respect your wishes. Perhaps this person is your therapist, and so please, do what you feel like you need to do to make sure this is a safe person, because you want to make sure that they respect your wishes. But like I said, we can't control other people, and ultimately what they do with that information, it can be hard for us to control. But speaking about it was incredibly empowering. It was also quickly identified the taboo from it. Once I broke my silence, and I quickly, from being in a support group for a few years, I found that I could easily speak about it. Was I always connected to what I was saying? I'm not so sure. But once I also got in touch with my feelings and sometimes my rage, and sometimes I recognized the power from telling, I was maybe not always, um, you know, practicing caution in terms of where I was sharing my story, and quickly recognized, sometimes the hard way, that I was making other people uncomfortable. And it was a taboo. And unfortunately, I feel sometimes it's sad to say, but here we are, 2014, this year coming to an end soon, that taboo around sexual trauma and sexual abuse is still out there. And but I can also speak to the empowerment from speaking about what happened to me. And I feel like was a blessing to me, because I have now for the last 10 years been a public speaker and an educator on the issue of child sexual abuse. And I can recognize that in the beginning, when I started speaking about my story and I told people, the reason why I'm telling you my story is because I'm not telling you this to make you feel uncomfortable. I want you to learn from my example and my story so we can prevent and protect other kids and prevent them to having to go through the kind of abuse that I went through. So that was always my intention. And I did recognize in the beginning of my healing and the beginning of, speaking publicly, it was 10 years after I started my healing that I started speaking, but I still could feel that tinge of shame when I brought it up and when I talked about what had happened to me. But I do know now, 10 years later, that it's been incredibly healing. And I used to tell people that I'm sending piece of my shame home with you. Because the truth is, our personal shame is a community burden. Because our community let us down as children. if an adult around us growing up hadn't stepped in, maybe when they saw a sign that something was happening or gave us the words to express, no one touches your private parts, chances are maybe we wouldn't have waited this long to tell our stories. So I used to say, you all are carrying a little piece of my shame. It's a community burden, and it really is. And yes, sometimes when I tell my story, I know I can make people feel uncomfortable. I know I do it now with a lot of heart and a lot of compassion, because I know to hear about children being abused in this way is incredibly painful to listen to. I have kids, and for anyone, and it's the human condition, right? When one of us is hurting, all of us are hurting. And when someone tells us about something horrific and we recognize we can't do anything about it, it almost makes us angry. Why are you telling me this? I can't fix it. I can't make it better. I know people feel helpless. So I try to make sure I tell them, listen, I'm okay now. I'm telling you this because I want you to learn from my experience. I'm okay now. I love myself. I am loved. I have a man in my life, been married for 20 years, and 3 amazing children, and I know I'm valuable and lovable. So you don't have to worry about me. But I challenge people to recognize their own discomfort with it, because other people's discomfort is what keeps us silent. And it starts when we're little, when we're just children. We look around us and we see these adults are not going to believe us. They're not going to know what to do. They maybe don't even want to know. Oof, that's a hard truth. So, find a safe person to tell. Write it out if you have to. Write a few letters to yourself and ask yourself, are you ready? Support groups where you can be both anonymous online, hear from others how they share their story. You share your story, maybe with a fake name in the beginning. There are such a things. There's groups out there where you don't have to share your true identity, and that's a good thing until you're ready. But finding a way to speak about it is really, really powerful. And I really hope you have a chance to do that sooner than later. If you'd like some help to get there, if you feel like you're ready and would like some coaching or support to how to get started, please reach out to me. My contact information is below. Again, I want to thank you for listening. I want to thank you for being here. Please know that I believe in you, and know that you can heal and restore, because if I can do it, you can do it. And remember, it wasn't your fault. The abuse was not your fault. It was not your fault then. It's not your fault now. And it's never going to be your fault, ever. And I know that's a conversation that we keep having in our heads. Why were we abused? Because it must have been my fault. It wasn't. And I'll keep telling you that until you believe it. Until you exchange that negative belief for a positive one. Right? So thank you again for being here, for listening. And remember, we're stronger together.